The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than anything Jinwoo had ever seen. It stretched across 3 kilometers of space, with walls made of shining crystal that reached up so high he could barely see the top. The floor beneath his feet was smooth and dark, made of some material that seemed to shift colors when he looked at it. Tall pillars rose from the ground, each one representing a different alien civilization that had helped build this place thousands of years ago. Around him, seats curved in giant circles rising higher and higher like the inside of a massive bowl. In those seats sat delegates from 600 different species. Some looked almost normal to Jinwoo's eyes, with 2 arms and 2 legs. Others were completely alien, floating in special containers filled with liquid, or existing as clouds of glowing particles or taking forms that hurt to look at directly. Jinwoo stood alone on the speaking platform at the center of it all. He wore a simple gray suit, the formal dress uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. It looked plain and old-fashioned compared to the incredible clothing worn by the aliens around him. Some wore robes that glowed with their own light. Others had garments that seemed to phase in and out of reality. A few didn't wear anything at all, their natural forms being enough. Behind Jinwoo, a hologram showed planet Earth slowly rotating. The blue oceans and green continents looked small and fragile in this vast chamber. It reminded everyone watching that humanity came from just one world, while many of the species here controlled hundreds or even thousands of planets. The council leader, an ancient being named Velthar, raised one long arm to get everyone's attention. Velthar belonged to a species called the Veldari, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had been exploring space when humanity's ancestors were still living in trees and using stone tools. Velthar's skin was almost transparent, and through it Jinwoo could see strange organs pulsing with light. "We are here to discuss the human question," Velthar announced. Their voice came out in a language Jinwoo didn't understand, but a small device in his ear translated it instantly. The same translation technology allowed all 600 species to communicate with each other.
Should these humans be allowed to continue spreading to new worlds?
Or should we restrict them to their home system? Laughter rippled through the chamber. It didn't sound like human laughter. Some species made clicking sounds. Others released colored gases. A few vibrated at frequencies that made Jinwoo's bones ache. But the meaning was clear. They were laughing at him, at humanity, at the idea that his people deserved to be treated as equals. Jinwoo kept his face calm and empty. He had been trained for this. Earth's diplomats had warned him that the Council looked down on humanity. 300 years. That's how long humans had been traveling in space. To these ancient civilizations, 300 years was nothing. Some of the delegates in this room had personal memories longer than that. A delegate named Chintara spoke up. They looked like a being made entirely of crystal, their body reflecting light in rainbow patterns. 300 cycles since these primitives learned to leave their planet. My own childhood lasted longer than their entire space program. They have no right to claim worlds that we have already explored and cataloged. More sounds of agreement echoed through the hall. Jinwoo noticed that not a single delegate spoke in his defense. He was completely alone here, representing all of humanity before an audience that had already decided humans weren't good enough. Another alien spoke, a being named Thex whose body had multiple mouths that all talked at once, creating a strange musical sound. Their technology is so primitive it's almost cute. They still use rockets that burn chemical fuel. Their fastest ships would take decades to reach even the nearest stars. They use computers made of silicon chips. They even still have something called money that they trade with each other. How can such backward beings ask for the same rights as civilizations that have mastered quantum engineering and dimensional travel? Jinwoo's jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't respond. Speaking out of turn would only make things worse. He had to wait for permission to defend his people. "And they're violent," added another voice from the crowd. "Everyone should review their history files. Humans have been fighting wars for their entire existence. They drove countless species on their own planet to extinction. They poisoned their air and water with industrial waste. They created weapons powerful enough to destroy all life on Earth and nearly used them, not once but many times. Is this the kind of species we want spreading through civilized space?" The chamber erupted with noise. Hundreds of voices called out, agreeing with each other. Jinwoo could hear the main points clearly even through the chaos. Humans were too young, too primitive, too violent, too dangerous. They should be contained, restricted, kept in their home system where they couldn't cause problems for more advanced civilizations. Jinwoo stood perfectly still through it all. His hands were clasped behind his back in a formal position. His face showed nothing, but inside he felt the weight of billions of human lives resting on his shoulders. If he failed here today, humanity would be trapped. Earth and its few colony worlds would be all humans ever got. No expansion, no exploration, no future among the stars. He thought about Earth, about the cities where billions of people lived their lives, completely unaware that their entire future was being decided in this chamber. He thought about the colony on Mars where humans had struggled for decades to build underground farms and habitats, about the mining stations in the asteroid belt, about the research outposts on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. All of it could be shut down. All of humanity's dreams could end right here. The noise continued to grow. Delegate after delegate stood to add their voice to the calls for restricting humanity. Some were angry, treating humans like dangerous animals that needed to be caged. Others were condescending, speaking about humans the way adults might speak about children who didn't know any better. A few seemed genuinely concerned, worried that young and violent humans might cause problems that would affect everyone. Jinwoo noticed that not one species defended humanity. Not one alien voice spoke up to say that maybe humans deserved a chance. The entire galaxy had apparently decided that his people weren't worthy of joining their community as equals. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Velthar raised their arm again. Slowly the noise died down. The chamber grew quiet enough that Jinwoo could hear his own heart beating. "I believe we have heard enough opinions," Velthar said. Their ancient eyes focused on Jinwoo. "Ambassador Jinwoo of Earth, you may now speak in defense of your species. Be brief. We have heard most of the relevant facts already." Jinwoo took a deep breath and prepared to fight for humanity's future. Jinwoo stepped forward on the platform. His voice was steady and clear, designed to carry across the vast chamber without seeming aggressive or weak. "Honored delegates, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. I understand your concerns about humanity. You're right that we are young. You're right that our technology is still developing, and you're absolutely right that our history contains many dark chapters." He paused, letting his words sink in. Some of the delegates seemed surprised that he was agreeing with them. They had expected him to argue, to make excuses. "We did fight terrible wars," Jinwoo continued. 2 global conflicts in the span of 30 years that killed hundreds of millions of people. We did create weapons that could have destroyed all life on Earth. We did poison our own planet's air and water during our industrial age. These are facts, and we don't deny them. An alien named Thren, whose body was made of living crystal that shifted colors as they thought, interrupted him. "So you admit to being a violent and destructive species. Then why should we allow you to spread that violence to other worlds? Your own history proves you cannot be trusted with expansion rights." "Because we learned from those mistakes," Jinwoo replied calmly. "Yes, we made terrible errors, but we survived them. We formed a unified planetary government to prevent future wars. We spent 2 centuries reversing the environmental damage we had caused. We developed strict ethical guidelines for new technologies. We looked at our worst moments and decided to be better." "Words," Thren said dismissively. "Easy to say you've changed. But your nature remains the same. A few centuries of peace doesn't erase millions of years of violent evolution." Another delegate spoke up. It was Taemin, a Veldari like the council leader. But where Velthar seemed neutral, Taemin's voice dripped with contempt. "Let me share some numbers with the assembly. The human species currently numbers 18 billion individuals. The Veldari communion alone has a population of 2 trillion across 400 worlds. Your entire military fleet consists of perhaps 200 warships. A single hegemony defense station could destroy all of them. You speak of strength. But what strength do you actually possess that should concern us?" The chamber filled with sounds of agreement. To these ancient civilizations, humanity was insignificant. A tiny population, primitive technology, weak military forces. There was nothing about humans that seemed special or worthy of respect. Jinwoo remained quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, almost thoughtful. "Representative Taemin asks a fair question. What strength does humanity possess? I would like permission to show the council something. A short video, less than 10 minutes long. It directly addresses the question that has been raised." This request caused confusion among the delegates. Many started talking to each other. Some seemed suspicious. Others were simply curious about what this human could possibly show them that would matter. Velthar consulted with several senior members of the council, their transparent faces expressing doubt. After a minute, they turned back to Jinwoo. "This is not standard procedure, Ambassador. We don't normally allow visual presentations during these hearings." "I understand that, Council Leader," Jinwoo said respectfully, "but I believe this video will answer many of the questions that have been raised here today. It will show you who humans really are, better than any speech I could give. If after watching it, this council still wishes to restrict humanity to our home system, we will accept that judgment. We will not protest or appeal. We will accept your decision and live with the consequences." The offer seemed to intrigue Velthar. Their eyes, which could see wavelengths of light that humans couldn't even detect, studied Jinwoo carefully. "You would agree to restriction without any further argument? That's quite a concession." "I make that offer because I'm confident in what this video will show you," Jinwoo replied. "Not confident that it will make you like us, but confident that it will make you understand us." Velthar seemed to make a decision. "Very well. You may show your video, but I must warn you, Ambassador. If this is some kind of propaganda or manipulation attempt, it will only make your position worse. The Council does not appreciate being deceived." "I understand completely," Jinwoo said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small data device. "May I transmit the file to the central display system?" Velthar gestured to a technician, who verified that the file contained only video data and no malware or harmful code. After a moment, the technician gave an affirmative signal. "The file is clean," Velthar announced. "You may proceed." Jinwoo uploaded the file. As the system processed it, he looked around the chamber one last time. 600 species representing millions of worlds and trillions of beings, all watching him with skepticism or hostility or simple indifference. Not one friendly face in the crowd. Not one ally. He thought about what the video would show them. Earth's government had debated for months about whether to reveal this information to the galactic community. Some officials argued it was too dangerous, that it would make other species fear humanity too much. Others said that fear might be exactly what humanity needed to survive in a galaxy that looked down on them. In the end, the decision had been made at the highest levels. If humanity was going to be caged like dangerous animals, then the galaxy should at least know exactly what they were caging. Let them understand the true nature of the species they were dealing with. "The file is ready," the technician announced. Velthar settled into their seat. "Begin playback." The lights in the chamber began to dim. Jinwoo stepped back from the center of the platform, moving into the shadows at the edge. The holographic display that had shown Earth now shifted and expanded, filling the air above the speaking platform with imagery. For a moment, the chamber was completely dark except for that glowing display. 600 species waited to see what this primitive human could possibly show them. What could be so important that he would stake his entire species' future on it? Jinwoo watched from the shadows. His hands were steady now. His breathing was calm. He had done everything he could. The rest was up to the video, and up to these ancient civilizations to decide whether they could see past their prejudices. The video began to play, and in that moment, everything changed. The first images appeared in the holographic display. They showed ancient Earth from thousands of years in the past, humans wearing animal skins and carrying weapons made of stone and wood, primitive villages with simple huts, early civilizations building with mud and brick. Jinwoo heard sounds from the watching delegates. Amusement, mostly. This was confirming what they already believed. Humans were primitive beings who had only recently learned to use technology. The video continued showing human history. Bronze Age warriors fighting with metal swords and spears. Roman legions marching in formation. Medieval knights in armor charging on horseback. The technology improved slowly over centuries, but the theme remained constant. Humans fighting. Humans at war, see? Someone in the crowd muttered loud enough for Jinwoo to hear. Nothing but violence. This is supposed to convince us to trust them? The footage jumped forward in time. Now it showed more recent history. Warships from the Age of Sail, firing cannons at each other through clouds of smoke. Soldiers in trenches during World War I, struggling through mud while poison gas drifted across battlefields. Cities burning during World War II, entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble by bombs. Then came the most disturbing images. Nuclear explosions, mushroom clouds rising into the sky, tests of weapons that could kill millions of people in seconds, missiles sitting in underground silos ready to launch at a moment's notice. A planet holding itself hostage with enough weapons to destroy all life multiple times over. Delegate Thren spoke up, their crystalline body flashing with satisfaction. Thank you, Ambassador Jinwoo. You have just proven our point better than we ever could. Your species is exactly as violent and self-destructive as we said. This video shows a species that should never be allowed to spread beyond its home world. Many other delegates made sounds of agreement. The evidence was right there in front of them. Humans were dangerous, violent creatures who had nearly destroyed themselves and might do the same to others if given the chance. But Jinwoo didn't stop the video. He stood quietly in the shadows watching the screen. And slowly, the tone of the images began to change. The scenes of warfare continued, but now they included different moments. A soldier throwing himself on a grenade to save his friends dying so others could live. Medics running through gunfire to reach wounded people. Civilians hiding refugees in their homes while secret police searched door to door, risking their own lives to protect strangers. A human voice began narrating over the images. It was quiet and steady, speaking simple words that the translation devices converted for all the different species. This is what we learned in our darkest times. Not how to kill, though we learned that too, but what we were willing to die for. What mattered enough to sacrifice everything. The video shifted to show humanity's space program. Early rockets that exploded on the launch pad, killing the engineers who built them. Astronauts training for years, knowing they might never come back. Spacecraft held together with technology that was primitive even by human standards, let alone compared to the advanced civilizations watching. We went to space in tin cans, the narrator continued, with computers less powerful than the devices your children use for games. We did it because it was hard. Because it was dangerous. Because we looked up at the stars and decided we belonged there, no matter what it cost. Footage showed the first moon landing, humans taking those first steps on another world, planting a flag, leaving footprints that would last for millions of years. Then came images of Mars colonies built one habitat at a time by people willing to leave Earth forever, for a chance to build something new. The chamber had grown quieter. Some delegates were leaning forward now, paying closer attention. The mockery had faded. This was still showing human weakness and primitive technology, but there was something else emerging from the footage. Something harder to define. Determination, stubbornness, a refusal to accept limitations. The video showed more recent history. Humans building colonies on hostile worlds, mining asteroids in conditions that would kill them in seconds without protection, exploring the depths of their own oceans, going to places where the pressure would crush a human body instantly. We don't have your technology, the narrator said. We don't have your long histories or your vast populations. What we have is this. We survive. No matter what, we adapt. We find ways to live in places that should kill us. We solve problems that should be impossible. Images flashed by showing human settlements on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons where researchers lived beneath kilometers of ice. Stations on Venus, where the surface temperature could melt lead. Outposts on Titan, where humans worked in an atmosphere of nitrogen and methane at temperatures far below freezing. You ask what strength humanity possesses, the narrator said. This is our strength. We refuse to die. We refuse to give up. Put us in any environment and we will find a way to survive there. Threaten us with extinction, and we will do whatever it takes to endure. The mood in the chamber was shifting. The delegates weren't laughing anymore. They watched in silence as the video showed test after test, experiment after experiment. Humans learning to survive in vacuum. Humans developing technology to work in extreme cold or heat. Humans pushing the boundaries of what their biology could handle. Then the video changed tone again. The test footage became more disturbing. Not survival technology anymore, but weapons. New weapons developed with an understanding of advanced physics and biology. Kinetic weapons that could strike from orbit with the force of nuclear bombs. Biological agents designed to adapt to any immune system. Nanomachines that could break down matter at the molecular level. Things that made the old nuclear weapons look simple and clean by comparison. We cataloged every horror we ever inflicted on ourselves, the narrator said, and now the voice carried a different weight. Not pride, but something darker. Every weapon we created, every mistake we made, every atrocity we committed, we documented it all. We studied it. We learned from it, not to forget, but to ensure we understood exactly what we were capable of. The delegates sat in shocked silence as weapon after weapon appeared on the screen. Technologies that violated interstellar law. Designs that no civilized species would create. Methods of warfare that were banned by every treaty the Council had ever written. And then we locked them away, the narrator continued, hoping we would never need them again. But we didn't destroy the knowledge. We didn't forget, because we learned something else in our darkest times. The screen went black for a moment, then new words appeared in the center. Simple text that the translation devices rendered in 600 languages simultaneously. Never again will we be defenseless. The black screen lingered for just a few seconds. Then a new title appeared in the holographic display. 2 words that made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. Project Contingency. The video resumed with technical diagrams. Weapon systems unlike anything the Council had seen before, or at least unlike anything they had seen from such a young species. The designs were sophisticated, showing deep understanding of physics, chemistry, and biology. But more than that, they were cruel in their efficiency. The narrator spoke again, that same flat, factual voice. When humanity achieved spaceflight and began exploring our solar system, our military leaders asked a question. What would we do if we encountered hostile aliens? Species more advanced than us with better weapons and faster ships? How would we survive? Schematics showed asteroid-based weapons platforms. Rocks, essentially, but accelerated to incredible speeds and aimed with precision. Simple physics turned into weapons that could crack continents. No exotic technology required, just mass and velocity. We studied every species we encountered, the narrator continued. Every civilization that made contact with us. We learned about your biology, your chemistry, your environmental needs. We did this openly, as part of diplomatic and scientific exchange. But we also used that information to prepare. The screen showed biological weapons. Not the crude viruses and bacteria from Earth's past, but engineered organisms designed with knowledge of alien biology. Pathogens that could adapt to any immune system. Diseases that could spread through multiple species. Representative Tai Min, the ancient Veldari, spoke into the silence. Their voice carried shock and something close to horror. You weaponized first contact protocols. You turned scientific cooperation into military intelligence gathering. Jin Wu, still standing in the shadows at the edge of the platform, answered quietly. We hoped we would never need any of it. But yes, every species that shared their biology with us we studied for potential vulnerabilities. Every technology you demonstrated, we analyzed for weaknesses. Every star system you claimed, we mapped for strategic importance. The video showed more weapons. Nanomachine swarms that could disassemble ships or stations at the molecular level. Quantum disruption devices that could tear apart the exotic matter many species used in their faster-than-light drives. Psychological warfare programs designed to exploit the mental patterns of different alien species. This is madness, Coordinator Thek said, their multiple mouths speaking in discord for the first time. These weapons violate the Galactic Convention on Warfare. They break the Treaty of Civilized Conduct. Some of them are classified as crimes against sentience itself. We developed them before we knew about any of your laws, Jin Wu replied. Before first contact. Before we knew the galaxy had rules. We created them because that's what our species does when faced with potential extinction. We prepare for the worst possible scenario. The video showed test footage. Simulations of these weapons being used. Computer models demonstrating their effectiveness. The images were clinical and sterile, but the implications were horrifying. These weren't weapons designed to win battles. They were weapons designed to ensure mutual destruction, to guarantee that even if humanity lost a war, their enemies would pay an unacceptable price. We call it assured devastation doctrine, the narrator explained. The logic is simple. If you have the power to destroy us, we make absolutely certain that we have the power to destroy you, not to win, but to make victory meaningless. To ensure that anyone who attacks humanity will regret it, even if they succeed. The chamber was completely silent now. No sounds of amusement or contempt. No dismissive gestures. 600 species, sat frozen, staring at the holographic display and understanding perhaps for the first time what they were really dealing with. Delegate Thren's crystalline form had stopped shifting colors. They spoke carefully, each word chosen with precision. Ambassador Jinwoo, are you threatening this council? Council leader Velthar raised a hand before Jinwoo could respond. Pause the video. The images froze. The lights in the chamber came up slowly, revealing the faces and forms of beings from across the galaxy. Many looked disturbed. Some appeared angry. A few seemed calculating, already thinking about the strategic implications. Velthar's ancient eyes focused on Jinwoo. Delegate Thren asked you a question. Are you threatening us? Jinwoo stepped forward into the light. His face was calm, showing neither aggression nor fear. No, Council Leader. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm answering the question that was asked. Representative Tai Min wanted to know what strength humanity possesses. This is our strength. This is what we're capable of when we believe our survival is at stake. You're insane, another delegate shouted. Your entire species is insane. This proves we should confine you immediately. Perhaps, Jinwoo acknowledged. But understand something. Everything you just saw, we developed all of that before we ever left our solar system. Before we met any of you. Before we knew the galaxy was full of civilized species who had rules and laws. We created these weapons because we assumed the universe was hostile and we needed to be ready for anything. He paused, looking around the chamber. Now imagine what we'll develop if you give us a reason to, if you confine us to our home system and turn us into your enemies. If you make us believe that our only choice is to break out by force. That sounds very much like a threat, Taemin said coldly. It's a prediction, Jinwoo replied. Based on our history, every time humanity has been backed into a corner, every time we've faced extinction, we've responded the same way. We innovate, we adapt, we find ways to survive that nobody expected, and we never, ever surrender. He gestured to the frozen hologram. Those weapons were created when we thought we might be alone in a hostile universe. Imagine what we'll create if we know we're surrounded by enemies who want to keep us caged. You have superior technology now, but technology can be stolen or developed. You have larger populations, but populations can grow. Time favors us, not you, because we're young and desperate and desperate, determined species are the most dangerous kind. The silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. The delegates looked at each other, communicating through private channels and subtle gestures. Finally, Velthar spoke. I believe we need to discuss this matter. Velthar stood from their seat, their ancient form seeming to glow slightly in the chamber's light. Ambassador Jinwoo, please step back while the council deliberates. Jinwoo bowed respectfully and moved to the side of the platform. The holographic display faded away, leaving just empty space above the center of the chamber. Around him, 600 species began talking among themselves. The noise level rose quickly as delegates argued, discussed, and debated. Jinwoo couldn't hear most of what they were saying. The translation device in his ear only worked for official statements directed at the whole assembly. But he could read body language well enough, even alien body language. Some delegates were angry, their forms flickering or changing color in ways that suggested strong emotion. Others seemed thoughtful, considering the implications. A few looked genuinely frightened. After several minutes, Velthar raised their hand for silence again. We will now hear final statements before voting. Any delegate who wishes to speak may do so. Representative Taemin was first. The ancient Veldari stood, their transparent form showing the complex organs beneath their skin pulsing with what might have been anger or fear. I have lived for over 4,000 standard cycles. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have witnessed wars that consumed entire star systems. And I tell you now, this human has just revealed his species to be one of the most dangerous threats our galaxy has ever faced. Sounds of agreement came from several delegates, Taemin continued. But here is what troubles me most. If we confine them, we create exactly the scenario the ambassador described. We turn them into cornered animals, focused entirely on breaking free. Every resource, every brilliant mind, every ounce of their considerable determination will be aimed at escaping our restrictions. And eventually they will succeed. The Veldari paused, looking directly at Jinwoo. So I find myself in the uncomfortable position of voting against restriction. Not because I trust humans, but because I fear what they will become if we try to cage them. More delegates spoke. Some argued for immediate restriction, saying that humanity's revelation of such horrible weapons proved they couldn't be trusted. Others pointed out that many species had developed terrible weapons during their history. The difference was that most had done so over thousands of years, while humans had compressed that same development into just a few centuries. Coordinator Thex stood, their multiple mouths working together to create a harmonious sound. I propose a different approach. What if we accelerate humanity's integration into galactic society? Give them access to our technology, our knowledge, our culture. Show them that cooperation is more valuable than preparation for war. Perhaps if they don't feel threatened, they won't need those weapons. Or we simply give them better weapons, someone shouted from the crowd. They already have weapons, Thex replied calmly. The question is whether we want them to develop more in isolation or in cooperation with us where we can at least observe and influence the process. The debate continued for nearly an hour. Jinwoo stood quietly through all of it, listening to species from across the galaxy argue about humanity's fate. Some of the arguments were surprisingly sympathetic, others were hostile and fearful. But one thing had changed. No one was laughing anymore. No one was dismissing humanity as primitive or insignificant. Finally, Velthar called for order again. I believe we have heard enough perspectives. It is time to vote on the original measure. Should humanity be restricted to their home star system? The council leader paused, then added something unexpected. Before we vote, I will share my own thoughts. I am old enough to remember when the Veldari were young. We made many mistakes in those early centuries. We were aggressive, territorial, and yes, we developed weapons that horrified other species. But we were given time and space to grow, to learn, to become the civilization we are today. Velthar looked around the chamber. Humanity is asking for the same opportunity. Not special treatment, just the same chance that most of us were given. Yes, they are dangerous, but so were many of our ancestors. The question is not whether they are dangerous now, but what they might become if given the chance to grow. Now we vote. Those in favor of restricting humanity to their home system. Lights began appearing around the chamber, each one representing a vote. Jinwoo tried to count them but gave up quickly. Maybe 40 or 50 votes in favor, perhaps a bit more, but far, far fewer than he had expected when he first arrived here. Those opposed to the restriction? The chamber lit up like a starfield. Hundreds of lights representing hundreds of species who had decided that humanity deserved a chance. The measure had failed completely. Jinwoo felt something release in his chest. Relief, yes, but also something heavier. The weight of responsibility. Humanity had been given their chance, but now they had to prove they deserved it. Velthar wasn't finished. The motion fails. Humanity's expansion rights are confirmed. Furthermore, I propose an additional measure. Any member species proposing military or economic sanctions against humanity must first present their case to this full council and receive majority approval. This will prevent individual species from taking action that might escalate into exactly the kind of conflict we all wish to avoid. Essentially, you're protecting them, Taemin observed. I'm protecting everyone, Velthar corrected. This prevents both unnecessary aggression against humanity and provides a mechanism for addressing legitimate concerns. Do we have support for this measure? The vote was even more decisive. Nearly every species approved. The chamber had gone from wanting to cage humanity to actively protecting them in less than an hour. Ambassador Jinwoo, Velthar said formally, the council has reached its decision. Humanity is granted full expansion rights within established protocols. Furthermore, aggressive action against your species is now subject to council oversight. We hope this demonstrates our commitment to peaceful coexistence. Jinwoo bowed deeply. Thank you, honored delegates. On behalf of all humanity, I express our gratitude for your wisdom and your trust. We will work hard to prove ourselves worthy of this decision. As the formal session ended and delegates began leaving the chamber, Taemin approached Jinwoo. The ancient Veldari studied him with eyes that had witnessed millennia of galactic history. Your people terrify me, Ambassador, Taemin said quietly, speaking in a way that wouldn't be translated to others. I have never seen a species so young demonstrate such capacity for both brilliance and destruction. I know, Jinwoo replied honestly. We terrify ourselves sometimes. That's part of why we're trying so hard to be better than our history suggests we might be. The Veldari was quiet for a moment.
See that you succeed, Ambassador.
Not just for your sake, but for all of ours. The galaxy does not need another species capable of such terrible things. We'll do our best, Jinwoo promised. Hours later, Jinwoo sat in his shuttle as it departed from the council station. Through the viewport, he could see the massive structure hanging in space, a monument to galactic cooperation built over thousands of years. Inside that building, 600 species had just learned something important about humanity. They had learned that humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the smartest or the fastest or the most advanced. They didn't have superior technology or vast populations or ancient wisdom. What they had was something simpler and more dangerous. They had the absolute refusal to accept extinction. They had the willingness to do anything, sacrifice anything, become anything in order to survive. And they had learned this lesson over and over throughout their history, until it became part of their nature. The galaxy had just decided that sometimes the wisest choice is not to corner dangerous things. And humanity, cornered and desperate, would have become the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Now, given room to grow and allies to work with, maybe they could become something better instead.